The abstract is the first part of our scientific report that will be read, and it will set the tone for how it is marked and reviewed. Now, I love abstracts because they are short, they tell me everything I need to know about a study, and whether or not the person writing it actually understood their work. So here are the lessons that I've learned from writing, marking, and reviewing papers that I apply to abstracts. Lesson number 1 is to state the purpose and power of our research in the abstract, and not just write about what we did. In many ways, the abstract is like the conclusion here, and of course that's because they're both summaries. But the abstract is longer than the conclusion, and it has a lot more detail, especially in the methods and results areas. Lesson number 2 is to make sure our abstract is standalone. So that means anybody should be able to pick up our scientific report, read our abstract, and understand it completely. They shouldn't need to read one other word of our report. The best way I've found to do this is by using clear and simple language that's easily understood by anybody. And that means anybody from a different scientific discipline or not even in science at all. And that goes hand in hand with lesson 3, which is to keep the abstract concise, which means it's short and clear. Abstracts are usually only 200 words. Occasionally we'll get around 250, but 200 is the most common word limit. Just make sure you double check your assessment outline or journal guidelines. What I found most helpful was to limit myself to 180 words. That meant once I'd finished writing my abstract and I came back through to edit it, I had an extra 20 words or an entire sentence that I could add in. Because I can tell you now, it's much easier to add content in than it is to take information out. And because abstracts are short, they're usually only one paragraph. In some scientific disciplines you may get 2, but usually one paragraph is best. Now lesson number 4 is the most important one that I can share with you, and that's to include all 5 key components of the abstract and not leave anything out. The 5 key components are introduction and importance, research questions, methods, results, and implications or conclusion. Now in the introduction and importance component of the abstract, that's where we spell out what our area of research is in a real world context. And then by highlighting the importance, we're telling the reader why that area of research is important to them or to the whole world. Why it matters. This also helps anybody that's looking for research related to their own, because it means they only need to read the first 1 or 2 sentences of our abstract to find out if the entire report will apply to them or not. Once we've introduced our area of research and explained why it's important, we can then introduce our research questions. And this is just pointing out to the reader, marker, or reviewer what our specific study did inside that broader topic of research. When we identify these research questions, we're doing it broadly or generally. We don't want to include aims, research questions, or hypotheses statements here. They belong in our introduction. We then need to include our methods. And this is just an indication of what we did and not the detail of it. So we're not writing about specific protocols or machines or equipment that we used. We just identify the methods that we use. We don't explain them. We then write about our results. Now the biggest tip here is that we don't write about our data. We just highlight our key findings. And it's through our data that we discover what our key findings are. Then we need to include our implications. So we've already identified what our study found in our results component. We now need to explain what they mean and why they matter. We could also include here any practical applications that we might have found. And the easiest way I've found to make sure I include all those components is to take 2 sentences from my introduction, 1 to 2 sentences from my methods, 1 to 2 sentences from my results, and 2 sentences from my discussion and conclusion. And we can do this because we've already written the rest of our scientific report, because the abstract should be the last component that we write. Now I don't just copy and paste them in. Obviously I rephrase them or condense them down, but that builds the basis or foundation of my abstract, especially the introduction sentences and those from the discussion and conclusion. Because in my introduction, I've already explained what my area of research is and why it's important and identified a knowledge gap. So I already have that information ready for the start of my abstract. And then in my discussion and conclusion, I've already explained what my key findings mean and why they matter. So I've already got that information to pack in at the end of my abstract. So by taking the work that you've already done and rephrasing it is the best way to start writing an abstract. Don't reinvent the wheel by writing it from scratch. Now I'm sure you're wondering if all of this is going to help you write a scientific report quickly. Well, it's going to help you write a great abstract. So how do you get the necessary writing skills to write an amazing scientific report quickly? Well, I've got 3 rules you can follow in this video. So make sure you watch it next to create your scientific report fast.